Chapter 141, Black and White Intertwined to Reveal the Universe, Yin and Yang Qi Test the Edge. The golden light sank into Lin Yu's consciousness without resistance. As it merged, he woke instantly in the ghost leopard's arms. Lin Yu patted the beast's shoulder. "Stop, I'm fine." Hearing his voice, Ghost Leopard, who had been racing towards Spirit Hall, stopped cold for a moment, then joy flickered in his eyes. "Young master, you're all right?" Lin Yu nodded. "First, find somewhere quiet. I have something to handle." By a wide riverbank, with Ghost Leopard standing guard, Lin Yu sat cross-legged, calmed his mind, and released his spirit. The phantom of the five-colored divine bird appeared, wings fluttering, a clear cry echoing. 5 black spirit rings formed around Lin Yu in succession. Before he could do anything, threads of golden light mingled with white, green, black, and yellow spirit power and began to condense. The miraculous sight drew Ghost Leopard's attention. The 5-colored phantom gave off a subtle pressure that made him feel his own spirit power stiffen and stagnate. "High Priest had good foresight," Ghost Leopard murmured. "No young miss has superior insight. I understand our young master less and less." He only sighed, though, and widened his eyes just enough to hold back the rushing demon bear. After a brief explanation, the demon bear, who had been anxious, finally let out a long breath. "Thank heavens it's nothing, but this—" Ghost Leopard couldn't explain it either. He only smiled calmly. "Wait a bit. Our young master is probably up to something extraordinary again." Time passed quickly. 3 hours later, the golden light on Lin Yu's body had condensed into a spirit ring. Black and white patterns intertwined across its surface, giving the ring a balanced, transformative feel. As the last link of pattern closed, the spirit ring burst with golden light and settled steadily above Lin Yu's spirit. The moment the ring formed, Lin Yu's aura rose. The level 60 bottleneck vanished, and he shot up to level 61, no further. The yin-yang chaos bird had nearly exhausted its power fighting the heavenly tribulation. What remained had been burned away by the flames of the life-divine force during its possession of Lin Yu. That was why he only reached level 61. Lin Yu didn't mind the meager gain in spirit power. The true prize was the spirit ability he had acquired. Despite being nearly 1,000,000 years old, the yin-yang chaos bird had died in the heavenly tribulation and left behind only 2 spirit abilities. The first was Universe Reversal, which could reverse spirit power attacks up to 10 times its own strength. Though defensive in nature, its effectiveness could turn offensive depending on the opponent's abilities. The second was Yin-Yang Harmony, far stranger and far more valuable. If an enemy's power did not exceed Lin Yu's by 3 major realms, Yin-Yang Harmony forcibly suppressed all of the enemy's Spirit Master attributes, except Spirit Power, down to Lin Yu's realm. While under that suppression, if Lin Yu killed them, the death would be absolute. Was it fair that he could force opponents to fight on equal footing like that? Lin Yu opened his eyes and smiled. Seeing Ghost Leopard and Demon Bear, he became thoughtful. "Uncle Bao, spar with me later. I want to test my new spirit ability." 15 minutes later, under the Demon Bear's horrified stare, Ghost Leopard's expression crumpled into despair. "Young master, this power of yours is too unfair, too overbearing." Lin Yu gently flicked the black and white golden spirit ring and lifted the effect of yin-yang harmony. Ghost Leopard's power immediately surged back to level 95. "Thanks for your patience, Uncle Bao. Here, Ice and Fire Clear Frost Tea from the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang. Well, and a Cinnabar Lotus to strengthen the foundation and cultivate original Qi. This is for you." He then produced a small jade box containing a wisp of black and white power and handed it to Lin Yu. "Young master, I just picked this up casually. Do you see any use for it?" Lin Yu accepted it with a smile and offered rare treasures from the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang well to Demon Bear. "You have to feed a horse if you want it to run." The same went for these two. Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard had nearly hit their limits. Without some great opportunity, further improvement was unlikely. While they continued to cultivate, their thoughts had started to shift toward family and descendants. The treasures Lin Yu gave them might not help them directly, but their descendants would benefit. 1 act, 2 returns. Of course they were pleased. Holding the wisp of black and white yin-yang qi, Lin Yu chose the best use. A flash of sword qi appeared, and the clear frost sword hummed into his hand. He guided the yin-yang qi to the sword. The moment the qi touched the blade, it became a streak of light and surged into the weapon. The sword underwent a dramatic transformation under the yin-yang influence. Strands of sword qi, laced with yin and yang energy, crossed and spread across several hundred meters. Black and white light exploded outward as countless sword qi blades erupted. Sensing danger, Ghost Leopard and Demon Bear yanked Lin Yu back and retreated beyond the area of the sword qi's rampage. When the tempest of blades faded, a cold, razor-sharp longsword lay on the ground, its hilt banded in black and white, emitting crisp, resonant sword cries. The moment Lin Yu touched it, the longsword turned into light and flowed into his body. The yin-yang qi had not only tempered the clear frost sword, but raised it fundamentally. In spirit bone hierarchy, the sword now ranked as a 100,000-year external spirit bone. It wasn't at the million-year tier. After all, the yin-yang chouse bird itself hadn't reached 1,000,000 years, but the enhancement was still profound. This hunt for a spirit ring had required little fighting, and though convoluted, the result was excellent. Passing through Spirit City, Ghost Leopard suggested making a stop, but Lin Yu's attention was fixed on Heaven Do City, that old Ningfengji. There would be no goodwill at a banquet. Spirit Hall could wait. He had other matters to settle. Chapter 142, The Split Spirit Hall, Willful Ning Rongrong. After several days away, Heaven Do City looked the same as ever. Demon Bear had slipped back into the Heaven Do Royal Academy and quietly resumed his post on the Education Committee, while Ghost Leopard trailed Lin Yu back to the Lin family residence for a single day. The next morning, as Lin Yu prepared to depart for the Imperial City, a familiar, graceful figure appeared at his doorstep. Her golden hair was tied in a ponytail, a snow-white veil partially hiding her exquisite face, and her beautiful eyes blinked at him with a hint of mischief. How could Lin Yu not recognize his beloved? He waved away the servants and stepped forward, taking her in his arms. Qian Renxue allowed him to hold her slender waist. Her light, fragrant body leaned against him naturally. "I heard you were back, so I came to see you. Is that all right?" she asked softly. "This is your home too," Lin Yu replied. "Of course it's all right." Qian Renxue blushed and tapped his shoulder with a fair hand. "What are you saying? We're still young, and my grandfather's around. Besides, are you sure you won't end up marrying into my family?" "What's hard about that? In a few years, when my strength improves, I'll have a proper talk with your grandfather." Her eyes widened in mock outrage. You scoundrel!" The haughty eldest Miss Qian turned her lovely back on him, determined to ignore him for a month. 10 days. No, just 1 day. Lin Yu smiled. Qian Renshue's temper was all surface. A few gentle words and she would be right back in his arms. It didn't take long before they were kissing and embracing, and she followed him to the back mountain behind the Lin family manor, a broad stretch of forest and valley, a natural place to keep things hidden. Hand in hand, they walked through the quiet valley, while Qian Renxue recounted the movements of the 7-treasure glazed tile school during the days he had been away. As she spoke, Lin Yu frowned. Is the 7-treasure glazed tile school really so stubborn? Are they acting like this just because they have one more titled Douluo than the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect? Who knows? Qian Renxue said. Ningfengji is more social than any noble at a banquet. In recent years, he's built interest-based ties with the Heaven Du Empire and nobles in the Star Luo Empire. With the reclusive Clear Sky sect backing him, he thinks no one can touch him. Interests are always the most reliable bonds. Unless survival is at stake, alliances founded on mutual benefit are incredibly strong. Given the web of interests Ningfengji has woven, Spirit Hall would find it hard to eliminate the 7-treasure glazed tile school without entirely alienating many major powers on the Douluo Continent. Worse, Qian Renshue's recent actions had stirred things inside Spirit Hall. The hall could no longer stay aloof. After she used decisive measures to control Emperor Shuoye and succeeded in transferring some important powers within the Heaven Do Empire, all the old men in Spirit Hall, except for the praying Qian Daoliu of the Angel God Temple, stirred. Golden Crocodile, the most senior among them, and the others began using the name of the Hall of Worship to challenge Bibi Dong, the Supreme Pontiff, for control of Spirit Hall. Bibi Dong had not expected these long-simmering elders to break cover and undermine her at this moment. The excuse the elders offered was simple. Hu Lina, the girl Bibi Dong had recently taken as an apprentice, and who was roughly Lin Yu's age. While they couldn't stop Bibi Dong from taking an apprentice, they refused to let Hu Lina be designated the Holy Maiden of Spirit Hall. Bibi Dong was furious, but with Golden Crocodile and the Elder faction united, how could she prevail? So Spirit Hall, the continent's premier power, slowly fractured. One side was the Hall of Worship faction, led by the senior worship elders, supported by several ancient families, a few titled Douluo, and numerous Spirit Hall elders. The other was the Supreme Pontiff faction, centered on Bibi Dong's Supreme Pontiff Palace, backed by the four lower sects and influential figures who still supported her. On paper, the Hall of Worship faction was far stronger. The Supreme Pontiff Palace had only Bibi Dong among its true peaks. Even powerful fighters like Yueguan and Gui Mei would have great difficulty against someone like Thousand Jin Demon Subduer, ranked low among the Hall of Worship but still formidable. However, Bibi Dong's authority as Supreme Pontiff still allowed her to keep the contest from tipping entirely in favor of the Elder faction. The result was a divided Spirit Hall. Unless Qian Daoliu intervened, neither side had the strength to dominate the continent on its own. And without a total break across the Douluo Continent, it would be extremely difficult to dismantle the network Ning Fengji had built. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue had only recently learned of all this, and both were troubled. 3 more days passed. The 7-treasure glazed tile school was celebrating. The little princess was turning 10, and the whole of 7-treasure city buzzed with life. Disguised as Shui Qinghe, Qian Renxue and Lin Yu rode into the city and dismounted, enjoying the leisurely pace of the streets. Qian Renshue's disguise made things a little more interesting. They hadn't gone far when the sound of fighting and cursing drifted up from a lavish but vulgar shop. Curiosity being what it is, they followed the noise. The second floor had a sophisticated decor, but the pleas from the shop owner being pinned to the floor ruined the air. A gorgeously dressed girl had her dark hair loose and a face full of petulant fury as she glared down at the beaten shopkeeper. "Humph," she said. "You dared to deceive this young miss? What nerve! You claimed your chef was the best in 7-treasure city. This is garbage. I wouldn't even feed this to a dog." When you call men fops, you call women vicious, and the girl before them was the very definition of willful. Her upbringing had been exceptional. She was Ning Rongrong, the beloved daughter of Ning Fengji, master of the 7-treasure glazed tile school and undisputed ruler of 7-treasure city. Spoiled by 2 titled Douluo, her parents, brothers and sisters, Ning Rongrong had grown up utterly crooked. Incidents like this were common in 7-treasure city. People had long since learned to put up with her tantrums. After all, she was the sect master's daughter. Chapter 143. The dagger is revealed. Killing intent in the moonlight. Ning Rongrong's spoilt behavior was obvious to everyone. The young men trailing after her flattered her shamelessly, each angling to win favor with the little princess of the 7-treasure glazed tile school. Lin Yu, watching from the side, had just learned from Shui Qinghe that the coquettish girl before him was Ning Rongrong. How to put it politely? Even dogs would shake their heads. Next to him, she seemed no more than a pampered landlord's daughter. And yet this apparently willful girl was the precious darling of the 7-treasure glazed tile school and the ostensible host of tonight's banquet. Night had fallen on 7-treasure mountain, at the Sect Hall, the heart of the 7-treasure glazed tile school, right in the center of the main Ning family branch. Normally only Ning Fengji, the sect master, could linger here for long. Tonight was different. Dotingly proud of Rongrong, Ning Fengji was using the hall to hold her birthday celebration. Before a crowd of honored Ning family elders, branch experts, and external guests, Ning Rongrong behaved with extraordinary propriety. Her sweet, demure display was a complete contrast to the arrogant, capricious girl Lin Yu had seen at the restaurant earlier that day. Even Shui Qinghe, drinking his wine with his usual calm, looked surprised and whispered to Lin Yu, "If I hadn't seen her today, I wouldn't have believed it." "I can't say about before, but right now she's much more dangerous than you," Lin Yu replied softly. He didn't spell out everything. In the original timeline, Ning Rongrong and Qian Renxue were a hidden dragon and phoenix pair who seriously undermined their opponents. Things had already changed for Qian Renxue under Lin Yu's influence. Whether Ning Rongrong would follow the old path remained unknown. Lin Yu's remark, however, unsettled the one currently posing as Shui Qinghe, Qian Renxue, who felt a twinge of confusion. She sensed a subtext in Lin Yu's words that was decidedly unpleasant. If Ning Fengji hadn't been standing there, she would have demanded an explanation on the spot. Whether intentional or not, after introducing his precious daughter to several leading figures from Heavendoe City, Ning Fengji walked over to Shui Qinghe and Lin Yu. Because Shui Qinghe had acknowledged Ning Fengji as his teacher, they had met several times before. Ning Rongrong, seeing Shui Qinghe, still greeted him with a saccharine smile. "Big brother Qinghe, long time no see." Long time, little sister Rongrong. You've grown even prettier," Shui Qinghe managed, though the memory of her earlier behavior at the restaurant had drained off the goodwill he'd briefly felt. Constrained by face and etiquette, especially with Ning Fengji standing there, he still offered the compliment. Hearing it, the simple-minded, almost foolish expression on Ning Rongrong's face brightened, and her smile widened. Ning Fengji affectionately ruffled her short hair, then, with a proud sweep of his hand, directed her attention to Lin Yu. "Rongrong, meet him. This is the genius Lin Yu I told you about, unrivaled in the Heavendoe Empire. He's not even 17, and is on the verge of breaking through to Spirit King. He ranks among the greatest figures in the history of the Douluo Continent." To Ning Fengji's surprise, Rongrong's expression shifted the instant Lin Yu's name was spoken. Her sweet voice took on an accusing edge. "You're Lin Yu? Grandfather Gu invited you to join our 7 treasure glazed tile school. Why did you refuse?" "Whether I join the 7 treasure glazed tile school has nothing to do with you, young Miss Ning," Lin Yu replied coolly. Ning Rongrong had been raised entirely in indulgence, unlike Qian Renxue, who'd been strictly schooled by Qian Dalu. Spoiled by 2 titled Douluo, Chen Xin and Gu Rong, and practically second only to Ning Fengji himself, Rongrong had learned that her wishes carried weight. Even Ning Fengji sometimes had to give in to her petty demands under pressure from the 2 titled Douluo. That upbringing left her with an illusion. She believed herself unsurpassable within the school, except by the Spirit Hall, which dwarfed even the 7 treasure glazed tile school. That arrogance had led her, on her first visit to Shrek, to challenge Flender and sneer that he was just a small spirit saint, never considering that the man could easily wipe her out. Now, caught flat-footed by Lin Yu's cold rebuttal, she discarded the politeness she'd been putting on. Enraged, she snapped. "What do you mean by that? You look down on." "Ning Rongrong, what are you doing? Have you forgotten everything I've taught you?" Ning Fengji scolded immediately. The outburst fell flat. Rongrong, accustomed to letting her father's words pass one ear and out the other, fell silent under his rebuke. Her angry words had been loud enough for the whole banquet to hear. Every gaze shifted to their table. Only someone as worldly and unflappable as Ning Fengji could remain unbothered. But Rongrong, naive and young, was mortified. Sword Dulo Chenxian exchanged a look with Ning Fengji and quickly led Rongrong away. With the departure of the evening's supposed star, Ning Fengji's true purpose for inviting Lin Yu became clear. "Young friend Lin Yu," he said smoothly once the crowd had dispersed a bit, "though Rongrong was rude just now, I hope you'll still consider joining us. If you do, we'll all be family, and family need not be at odds." "Sectmaster Ning's proposal is generous," Lin Yu answered, "but please allow me some time to consider." He narrowed his eyes. The offer was a trap dressed as hospitality. Ning Fengji was giving him a last chance, a chance Lin Yu could not afford to refuse openly. Heavendoe City and 7 Treasure City were too close. Once he stepped outside 7 Treasure City, a net of schemes and surveillance would immediately begin. Until Lin Yu had the power to outright kill Chen Xin and Gu Rong, those 2 Pora, titled Douluo, the Ghost Leopard and the Demon Bear, could not show themselves openly in the Heavendoe Empire. And because the Heavendoe royal family was already being subtly controlled, and because Dugu Bo's influence still restrained the school's reach, Ning Fengji, Chen Xin, Gu Rong, and the rest of the 7 treasure glazed tile school could not act with total impunity. Spirit Hall operatives embedded as royal retainers also interfered, limiting the field to high-level spirit saints at best. As the night deepened, guests filtered out of the sect hall. After a few quiet words with Shui Qinghe, Lin Yu slipped away by himself, taking advantage of the bright moonlight to leave Seven Treasure City. The instant he left, killing intent erupted under the moonlight. Chapter 144, Five-Colored Divine Light, Instant Kill Spirit. Saint Lin Yu rode his horse along the road from Seven Treasure City toward Heaven Do City, passing occasional nobles who had good relations with the Lin family. "Long time no see, Xiao Yu," a slightly deep but hearty voice called. Lin Yu turned and was surprised. "Uncle Oakland, are you coming back from the banquet too?" The man was lean, with sharp brows and bright eyes. If not for the gray at his temples, no one would have guessed this man who looked 30-something was actually well past 70. Oakland, Oscar's father from the royal fighting team, had once been a confidant of Shuiye, much like Lin Yu's father, Lin Zhan. Despite being more than 20 years older than Lin Zhan, Oakland and Lin Zhan were close friends. Lin Zhan, worried about his son, had asked this old friend, more like an elder brother, to come and protect Lin Yu. As Oakland slowly explained the situation, Lin Yu learned that his uncle had indeed come at his father's request to escort him. Lin Yu couldn't help but smile wryly. "Uncle Oakland, you really shouldn't have agreed to my dad. Even if those people don't have Spirit Douluo-level experts, they're probably top-tier spirit saints. They'll be hard to deal with." "Xiao Yu, that's nonsense," Oakland replied. "You're my nephew. I don't know how you provoked the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School, but if I don't help you, how can you call me uncle? And besides, my boy is where he is today, thanks to you." Indeed, in Lin Yu's previous life, he hadn't known how Oscar joined the royal fighting team, but in this life, it was Lin Yu who had pulled strings. The families had always been close, and Oakland felt indebted. His presence made the lurking assassins hesitate. About 30 miles outside Seven Treasure City, the leader of the Ning family's death warriors could no longer hold back. "Everyone, get ready. Even if we all die today, we must clear the obstacle for the sect. Understood?" "Understood," 9 voices answered in unison. Oakland, whose spirit power reached level 83, immediately sensed them. A battle-hardened veteran, he didn't hesitate. He released his spirit, Ghost Leopard, with 8 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 4 black, demonstrating his spirit Douluo strength. He stepped in front of Lin Yu and quietly warned, "Xiao Yu, these guys aren't weak. Staying here will hamper me. Leave now." If Lin Yu were truly an ordinary spirit master, Oakland would be right. He'd have to pull away, or Oakland's agility attack fighting style wouldn't be able to function. But Lin Yu had never been ordinary. Even with his cultivation concealed, he remained an unparalleled power on the continent. Using the life deity's power, he had disguised his spirit rings to look like a spirit king's. He held the Qingxuang sword horizontally and quietly told Oakland, "Uncle, there are 10 of them. I'll be generous and give you 3. The other 7 are mine." Instantly, an invisible but absolute sword domain erupted, enveloping the 10 spirit saints blocking the road, each with spirit power at least at level 75. Inside the sword domain, there was only him and his sword. Lin Yu was its dominator. Any creature within felt the domain's rejection of them. The effect varied with strength, but the sensation of being denied by heaven and earth made the trapped spirit saints furious and uncomfortable. Ning Da, a fiercely temperate loyalist who wielded a mastiff dog spirit, bared his teeth and activated his martial soul true body. In his half-man, half-dog form, he lunged at Lin Yu with a roar. "Boy, die!" The other 9 spirit saints split up. 4 moved to block Oakland, while the remaining 5 also activated their martial soul true bodies, aiming to kill Lin Yu in one strike. Oakland was alarmed and about to intervene when the 4 who had moved to him formed a barrier. He was momentarily held back and felt a twinge of panic, until Lin Yu's next moves made him realize how much life he had wasted worrying. With a flash, Lin Yu darted out of the way of the 6 furious attacks as if it were nothing. Before his spirit's evolution, his spirit had been the Emerald Demon Bird, shockingly fast. After evolving into the 5-colored Emu Bird, it retained that incredible speed and attack while gaining further enhancements. After evading the combined assault, Lin Yu activated his second spirit ability, paired Luan, creating two clones at 80% of his original strength. They sprinted forward and met two spirit saints head-on, cutting their approach. The remaining four, led by Ningda, unleashed their strongest sixth spirit abilities on top of their martial soul true bodies, powerful spirit power strikes and brutal close combat moves intended to end Lin Yu's life. Even with his strength somewhat suppressed, Lin Yu faced a dangerous moment. Decisively, he used his third spirit ability, Ice Flower Lure. Layers of solid ice spread and momentarily trapped the attackers. Seizing the opening, Lin Yu struck. The Qingxuang sword in his hand chilled like fresh snow. With a single slash, the area was illuminated. Using his unparalleled sword domain, he unleashed the domain-severing sword strike. In that one stroke, the four men still immobilized by the ice, including Ningda, were cut down instantly. Lin Yu moved like Guy Mei, his speed carrying him to finish the two spirit saints entangled with his clones. 6 of the 10 were dead. The remaining 4 coordinated immediately. One was grievously wounded and dying, the other 3 were barely harmed. But Lin Yu was not about to let them live. He activated Spirit Ring Fusion and merged 5 spirit rings. A massive, 5-colored bird phantom materialized behind him. As the giant bird shifted, its tail feathers became a beam, the 5-colored divine light. The unmatched divine light shot toward the clustered men with blinding speed. How could these spirit saints, at most advanced spirit saint level and not titled Douluo like Ghost Leopard, resist it? The Ning family death warriors could not. Before they could react, their life force was extinguished. They perished on the spot, just like the 6 Lin Yu had slain before. 10 spirit saint level experts, no matter how many they were or how wealthy the 7 treasure glazed tile school, had been wiped out in an instant. The loss would sting them for a long time. Chapter 145, Ning Fengji, forced to compromise, plotting the demise of the 7 treasure school. The lively night had passed, and the main hall of the 7 treasure glazed tile school had returned to its usual quiet. Apart from a few scattered guards, only Sect Master Ning Fengji sat inside with Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo. They recalled the lineup of top experts below Spirit Douluo that had been dispatched last night, a force that would have given even weaker Spirit Douluo trouble, and one that a mere Spirit King could not stand against without meeting a bitter end. Both Gu Rong and Ning Fengji allowed themselves a small measure of satisfaction. Gu Rong's pleasure was a petty sort, born of envy toward greater geniuses. Ning Fengji's was the comfort of having seemingly eliminated a potential threat to his sect. Just as Ning Fengji finished his tea and prepared to attend to reports from the lower halls, a cousin of his generation hurried in. Ning Fengji, still in a good mood, smiled and asked politely, "Cousin, what is it? Why are you in such a hurry?" "Sect Master, there's something you must see at once." The cousin slipped a note into Ning Fengji's hand and retreated. A cold premonition crept over him. He unfolded the paper and read. His face drained of color. The spies of the 7 treasure glazed tile school in Heaven Dew City had reported 10 spirit saint corpses were hanging outside the city gates, their identities unknown. The coincidence was too cruel. The 10 orphans the Ning family had trained and sent out had also failed to return. "I was careless," Ning Fengji muttered. "I never thought I'd be schemed against by a junior." Spirit saints were the backbone of the 7 treasure glazed tile school. To lose 10 like that was a grievous blow. Gu Rong and Chen Xin read the note over his shoulder. Both fell silent, their expressions grave. Even Gu Rong, who rarely stopped to sigh, couldn't help a heavy breath. "This is troublesome," he said at last. "This boy isn't merely a genius anymore. Fengji, if you put the larger situation first and won't offend the Heaven Dew Empire, you'll never be able to kill him." His words were pointed. He wanted Ning Fengji to ignore restraint and order a direct strike, perhaps letting Gu Rong or Chen Xin take action. But Ning Fengji, ever the planner and never bold in outright action, shook his head. "No," he said, "leave it be. Storms are gathering across the Douluo Continent. Before long, the whole landscape will change. If he survives and grows, the tallest tree will be the first to be broken by the wind. Unlike our 7 treasure glazed tile school, with its deep heritage, regional backing, and the Clear Sky sect as an ally, he is essentially on his own, backed only by the Heaven Dew royal family. How will he stand against the Spirit Hall when the time comes?" Ning Fengji had a merchant's instinct for profit in chaos. When two powerful forces clash, the third benefits. Unless the seven treasure glazed tile school itself faced an existential threat, he preferred to let larger conflicts wear down his rivals. That shrewd, calculating streak had governed the sect into a kind of brittle prosperity, impressive on the surface, yet easily punctured. Meanwhile, in the secret room of the Crown Prince's bedchamber in the Eastern Palace, Qian Renxue had learned every detail of the previous night and seethed. She insisted the seven treasure glazed tile school must be destroyed at once. Lin Yu, however, soothed her until some of her anger ebbed. Nestling in his arms, she pouted. Xiao Yu, how can you let Ning Fengji off so lightly? He's schemed against you more than once. Lin Yu stroked her smooth back, smiling gently. I know, he murmured, but we haven't yet secured the Heaven Do Empire. Destroying the seven treasure glazed tile school now would be too conspicuous. The best time is 4 years from now, during the Spirit Master Tournament, when attention will be fixed on the finals in Spirit City. Ning Fengji will certainly go, and one of Sword Douluo or Bone Douluo will accompany him. If we strike then, when he returns, the vast seven treasure school will be left hollow. What will Sectmaster Ning do then? Qian Renxue blinked and leaned against his chest. I understand, but aren't you being cruel? Ning Fengji is in his 60s. This is like killing the heart. It's killing the person and punishing the heart, Lin Yu corrected lightly. You forget quickly, Sister Xuer. A flicker of displeasure crossed Qian Renshue's autumn water eyes. She wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him, as she always did, pressing for affection. Lin Yu found himself pleasantly off balance. Though he liked being passive sometimes, he preferred to take the lead. He tightened his arms, surprised at his own boldness. For a moment, passion threatened to overtake them, but they both held back. The secret room, while decent, was underground and stuffy, hardly fit for a final consummation of their feelings. Time slid by. After a light sleep beside Qian Renxue and a teasing exchange upon waking, Lin Yu rose and left the chamber. Qian Renxue, indulgent but resolute, watched him go. She knew their personal interlude could not distract from the larger game. Once the administration of the Heaven Do Empire was firmly in Spirit Hall hands, even if she did not ascend the throne as Shui Qinghe, she would have won her gamble against that rival woman. Her thoughts drifted to Spirit City. Narrowing her beautiful eyes, she whispered, I am almost finished. Are you ready? Chapter 146. Departure. Balak Kingdom. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. After the incident with the 10 Spirit Saint corpses hung on the city gates, Ning Fengji had been forced to give explanations to the elders of the seven treasure glazed tile school and the powerful outer spirit masters. Once so close to the Heaven Do Empire, his relationship with it had cooled considerably over those 2 years. He even forbade Shui Qinghe from coming to the seven treasure glazed tile school. Instead, Ning Fengji himself made monthly inspections at the Eastern Palace. Ning Fengji clung to Shui Qinghe, convenient as a student, not because of affection, but because he still hoped to salvage relations with the Heaven Do Empire and present a joint front against the Spirit Hall. He imagined that if Shui Qinghe ascended the throne, the prince might proactively apologize to the seven treasure glazed tile school on behalf of the empire, which could quiet the stubborn elders and the external spirit masters. To steady Ning Fengji, Qian Renxue, who had been posing as Shui Qinghe, did not object. She had never intended to actually sit on the throne, and she agreed casually. The Heaven Do Empire itself had changed a great deal in those 2 years. Shui Xing, the powerful prince who had commanded the empire's army, lost his grip on the military under persistent machinations by the already controlled Shui Ye. Marshal Jie Long had seen much of his power wrenched away as Lin Zhan, recalled to the imperial military, steadily took over parts of the army. Not long after Lin Yu became a spirit emperor, Lin Zhan achieved a breakthrough to Spirit Douluo. He had been extraordinarily lucky. On a spirit ring hunt in the Star Do Great Forest, accompanied by his demon bear, he encountered a 75,000-year-old emerald demon bird. When spirit masters hunt for spirit rings, they usually target beasts similar in nature to their own spirit. Finding one identical to yours is the ideal, maximally compatible. Since returning from that hunt, Lin Yu had asked his father what spirit ability he'd gained, but Lin Zhan had kept it secret, joking that he had to maintain his dignity as a father, an answer that had left Lin Yu speechless. Beyond the military, still partially under Jie Long, the rest of the empire's power had been seized by agents the Hall of Worship placed to assist Qian Renxue. These agents were essentially vassals of the Angel clan, so although Qian Renxue only retained the empty title of Crown Prince, she effectively controlled the supreme authority of the Heaven Do Empire. In the Crown Prince's bedchamber, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue sat facing one another. Qian Renxue held a cup of clear tea, and having enjoyed smooth sailing in the empire with Lin Yu's help over the years, she frowned slightly. Xiao Yu, what are you thinking? The Balak kingdom may have the strongest military among the 5 vassal states, but compared to the Heaven Do Empire, it's insignificant. Why are you so set on going to Balak? On the surface, the strength of a vassal state was limited. The Balak kingdom's forces were no match for the Heaven Do Empire. But Lin Yu's reasons for going were never that simple. His plan reached beyond Balak itself. Qian Renxue set down her teacup, and Lin Yu reached out and pulled her into his arms. Feeling her warm body, he rubbed his forehead contentedly against hers. Used to Lin Yu's sudden affections, Qian Renxue indulged him for a moment, then pushed his head away with a pale hand and glared at him. Be serious, or else you won't be allowed to touch me for a month. Qian Renxue knew Lin Yu's temperament well. Her words struck home. He leaned close to her ear and described his plan in low tones. As proximity breeds mischief, after hearing the surprising and somewhat audacious details, Qian Renshue's eyes lit up. Really, if that's true, it could work. No matter how much they hate it, they won't stand for such provocations from outsiders. So, Sister Shuer, you agree? Lin Yu asked. Qian Renxue nodded at once, but then added something that made Lin Yu's heart sink. You can go. But my little man, don't forget, you're my future husband. As you said before, a woman follows her husband wherever he goes. Wherever you go, I must naturally follow. This plan is so interesting. How could you bear to leave your sister behind in Heaven Do City? As she pinched his cheek and smiled, Lin Yu felt like crying silently. He had talked too much. He had dug his own grave. Lightly teased, he could only nod and accept that she would go with him. Leaving the Heaven Do Imperial City was remarkably easy for the current Qian Renxue. 2 years earlier, the Hall of Worship had placed not only administrators, but also several body doubles to impersonate Shui Qinghe. Even if Qian Renxue casually set aside state matters, the Heaven Do Empire, already tightly controlled by the Hall of Worship and the Angel clan, would manage without immediate trouble. After settling affairs and bidding farewell to Lin Yu's parents, the two set off south by carriage. Although the Balak kingdom lay within the jurisdiction of the Heaven Do Empire, it had become almost a state within a state. Aside from the fixed annual tribute to the imperial family, the Balak royal house enjoyed wide autonomy within its borders. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue took their time sightseeing and traveling, and nearly a month passed before they reached Balak. Their first stop was the Balak capital, Barak City, not Suotuo City, the kingdom's other major city renowned for grain. Barak City, while famous on the Douluo Continent, was still far smaller than Heaven Do City. Its locale, however, gave it a distinct character. The city seemed to have no seasons, neither autumn nor winter, year-round. Qian Renxue, finally free to travel, was delighted. Dressed in a gold-patterned silk gown with a pure white veil and holding Lin Yu's arm like a devoted wife, her refined elegance drew many admiring looks from passers-by. Growing slightly uncomfortable with the attention, she urged Lin Yu on, and the two soon arrived at the Spirit Hall in Barak City. The main plot begins. Chapter 147, Bibi Dong's deliberate provocation, and the shy sister Shuer. I didn't expect Kundela, the king of the Balak kingdom, to throw himself so quickly onto the banner of our esteemed supreme pontiff, even handing over command of his army. Has he really bet everything on the supreme pontiff palace and decided to walk this path to the end? Qian Renxue leaned against Lin Yu's shoulder, her cherry-red lips pursed in displeasure. Strictly speaking, the Balak kingdom was a vassal of the Heaven Do Empire, its territory. The Shui name still hung over the empire in name, but in truth the Angel clan pulled the strings. For Kundela, the king, To seek shelter under Bibi Dong's wing was a direct provocation to Qian Renxue. One could not easily allow another to make themselves comfortable beside one's own bed. If someone else was taking a share of what belonged to her, how could she be happy? Lin Yu chuckled. Xue, why are you so naive? Qian Renxue blinked and tilted her head. Ever since she began her infiltration of the Heaven Do Empire, her mind had grown heavy with schemes. Apart from Lin Yu, she had to smooth talk and deceive day in and day out. Naive, she fixed her bright eyes on him as though daring him to explain. Lin Yu opened his arms and drew her in. The warmth and scent of the beauty in his arms were irresistible. With no one around, he leaned close and whispered into her ear, "You fell into her trap from the start. Without you, the legitimate Supreme Pontiff's successor and descendant of the angels, around, no wonder she has flourished in the Spirit Hall all these years. Her top combat power still doesn't match the old man in the Hall of Worship," he continued softly. "But don't forget, the number of spirit masters under her command has now far outstripped the Hall of Worship." Qian Renxue was quick. Lin Yu's casual remark made the situation click into place for her. She had suspected something, but it was hard to believe. "So you're saying she forced me out of the Spirit Hall?" she blurted. "Otherwise?" Lin Yu said. "If you, the little angel, were still in the Spirit Hall, even the glimpse of your small wings would be enough to gather a crowd of supporters." He wasn't exaggerating. The Qian family had long held the orthodox position in the Spirit Hall. People there were used to a Qian serving as Supreme Pontiff. Suddenly having Bibi Dong in that role was a shock. It was like the end of an empire. Heroes fought for power, and only a few dared claim the throne. The atmosphere in the Spirit Hall was that kind of upheaval. Qian Renxue fell into thought. A hand slipped inside her clothes, and she frowned. "Does this feel good?" she asked, annoyed. Lin Yu gave an awkward smile and left his hand where it was, resting on the beauty at his side. The night passed without incident. In the morning, after washing, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue boarded the carriage and headed for Suotuo City. Suotuo City and Barak City lay at opposite ends of the kingdom. From Barak City, they had crossed almost the entire realm. 4 days later, they reached Suotuo. Though it was the second most important city in Balak, thanks to the fertile fields and grain around it, its urban environment trailed far behind Barak City. Inside, it was no different from an ordinary provincial city. Lin Yu immediately inquired after the Rose Hotel as soon as they arrived. The Rose Hotel had a reputation in Suotuo. A passerby pointed them its way, and the ghost leopard carriage turned toward the southern quarter. After many twists and turns, they finally arrived in front of the hotel. Qian Renxue, puzzled, still linked her arm with Lin Yu and followed him inside. The front hall had deliberate luxury. They reached the front desk together. When the attendant caught sight of Qian Renxue beside Lin Yu, tall, wearing a gold-patterned gown and a pure white mask, the man's eyes flashed with admiration and a touch of envy. Though he couldn't see her face, her snow-white skin and flawless figure were unmistakable. He stayed professional. "Good day, sir. What kind of room would you like?" he asked politely. The attendant didn't mince words. This was a hotel for couples, and rooms were their stock in trade. Qian Renxue glanced up as Lin Yu considered the options, and her face flushed when she saw the Rose Suite, known as the signature room of the hotel. Suddenly, everything made sense. Lin Yu chose a room named Pure Love, white with gold accents, took the key, and led Qian Renxue to the third-floor suite. When the door opened, a delicate jasmine scent greeted them. Even shy Qian Renxue brightened and murmured, "The jasmine smells wonderful." Her face went even redder as she followed Lin Yu into the room and then, almost shyly, collapsed into his arms. Lin Yu had noticed her earlier unease, but he hadn't expected the usually intimate Qian Renxue to become so bashful. Holding her, he couldn't claim to be without intention, but there were business matters to address first. How could he relax otherwise? He patted her lightly and laughed. "Xue, stop fretting. Don't forget why we're here. And don't you think Kundela and the Balak kingdom are an eyesore?" Startled out of her romantic mood, Qian Renxue blushed even deeper. Overcome by the shame of a maiden, she grabbed the soft velvet quilt and buried her face in it. Chapter 148, Lin Yu's Scheme, Killing 3 Birds with 1 Stone. Deep into the night, Qian Renxue finally revealed her small head from beneath the covers after Lin Yu's persistent coaxing. Her bright golden eyes watched him with a hint of wariness. When Lin Yu mentioned that a prince of the Star Luo Empire was near Suotuo City, she considered for a moment and said softly, "Xiao Yu, as you said, if that man really is a prince of the Star Luo Empire, and one of those involved in the struggle, killing him could truly provoke the Star Luo Empire." Inside the Star Luo Empire, first-rate powers were scarce. The only major sect bearing the Star Luo name, the Clear Sky Sect, was actually located within the Heaven Do Empire. The Star Luo Empire's brutal, bloody succession system meant it had no vassal states to diffuse power. Without vassals to split authority or significant internal powers to check the crown, the imperial family could more easily consolidate the entire empire's strength. Compared with the Heaven Do Empire, which at best controlled only half its present territories, the Star Luo Empire was stronger, and that national strength explained why, in the original timeline, Dai Mubai had said the Star Luo Empire could easily defeat the Heaven Do Empire. The Crown Prince selection system was a farce. Every member of the imperial family secretly coveted the throne, and the internal struggles were merciless. That chaotic system, neither properly regulated nor abandoned, gave Lin Yu an opening to exploit. Dai Mubai, despite his personal failures, was still the third prince of the Star Luo Empire, the legitimate son of the emperor and empress. If he were to die in the Balak kingdom, the Star Luo imperial family could not stay silent. Even if they suspected a conspiracy, for the sake of imperial dignity, they would have to answer with force against the Balak kingdom. If the Star Luo Empire could somehow swallow the loss, Lin Yu wouldn't even mind letting Zhuzu King and Dai Mubai become tragic lovers, if eliminating both created the right pretext. The goal was simple: force the Star Luo Empire to launch war on the Balak kingdom. If, after eliminating this pair, the Star Luo Empire still tolerated the incident, Lin Yu had no objection to using Golden Crocodile to stage a more obvious provocation: hang the Star Luo Emperor's head on the wall of Barak City. Once the Emperor's head appeared on Balak soil, the Star Luo populace would be incited to fury and would inevitably attack the Balak kingdom. Why stir up such chaos, even at the cost of Balak? It was a calculated move to remove rivals for Qian Renxue. A Star Luo invasion would weaken the Supreme Pontiff's faction. The Balak kingdom was nominally Heaven Do territory, so a Star Luo occupation would give Qian Renxue a legitimate reason to send Gi Long, the Heaven Do Empire's marshal who had not yet been purged, to lead an expedition. In other words, the plan could kill two, or rather three, birds with one stone. Handled properly, it might even accelerate the promotion of Lin Yu's father, Lin Jian. With Lin Yu's relationship with Qian Renxue, no one would dare oppose the promotion, but Lin Yu still didn't want to give anyone fodder for criticism. Hearing Lin Yu outline the plan, Qian Renxue's eyes shimmered and a smile curved her lips. "You really are a naughty one. I'm telling you now, you're not allowed to use your wicked schemes on me again, understand?" "I love Sister Shuer too much for wicked intentions," Lin Yu replied, then kissed her. They tumbled onto the pure white, gold-inlaid bed together. Several days passed quickly. Their relationship had deepened, though Qian Renxue still kept a boundary. Sharing a bed was as far as she would allow for now. During those days, Lin Yu had been busy having Serpent Dragon gather intelligence on Shrek Academy and on Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai's whereabouts proved difficult to pin down, but the situation at Shrek Academy had become clearer. Flender, Zhao Wuji, and the others were there, and Lin Yu's appearance had already stirred some influence. For instance, Shrek Academy had not planned external recruitment this year, but Tang Chen was already at the academy, having spent 3 or 4 years there, and had lived alongside Dai Mubai for those years. As the old saying goes, he who touches pitch shall be defiled. Because Tang Chen had been influenced by Dai Mubai, he had become more outgoing, less inclined to revere female beauty, and no longer retained the icy purity he had in the original timeline. Coincidentally, the recruitment drive was happening that day. Tang San, now one of Shrek Academy's older students, was assisting a teacher with the first assessment stage, estimating candidates' ages by bone structure. Behind a slightly battered, dust-covered table sat an unremarkable youth who would be easily lost in a crowd. He methodically measured each person in line by bone structure. That unassuming youth was Tang San. The teacher he assisted, Lin Yu, who possessed the dragon-patterned staff spirit, sat idly in the shade, enjoying the cool. Whatever promotional tactics Flender had used, they'd convinced some people that attending Shrek Academy would guarantee a viscountcy upon graduation. Lin Yu, son of a Marcus, had nothing to say to such absurd claims. Shrek Academy's graduation, if it could be called that, was notoriously precarious. Even those who made it through weren't guaranteed titles. In the original timeline, the Heaven Dew Empire had granted Viscount titles to the captains of the top 5 teams from the regional competition, the elite among the young spirit masters, those who could challenge the titled Douluo. 10 Viscounts total. Solace, the Platinum Bishop, had called that generous. Titles in the Heaven Dew Empire were hard to obtain unless you were a top genius. Yet this small, rural academy dared to promise such honors. As Lin Yu inwardly criticized Flender, the people ahead in the line suddenly scattered and ran off for reasons unknown. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, walking near the end of the queue, exchanged a glance and strolled together toward Shrek Academy's registration area. Chapter 149, Color Tiger Wearing White, Coming-of-Age Ceremony. When the two figures appeared before Tang San, he looked up in surprise. Sirs, Shrek Academy only recruits students under 12 years old. You and this young lady. Although Tang San was very calculating when it came to gains and losses, he was still polite with strangers. With acquaintances, his courtesy depended on what they could offer him. That wasn't hypocrisy so much as human nature. No one was a saint. What made Tang San dangerous was how he dealt with people. Beneath the gentlemanly exterior, he could be narrow-minded and unforgiving. Offend him, and sooner or later, he might take your life. Hearing Tang San's civility, Lin Yu smiled lightly. Young man, excuse us. My wife and I were only asking whether your academy is still hiring teachers. Tang San didn't answer. From the shade of a tree, Li Yusong opened his slightly dim yellow eyes. A sharp glint flashed through them as he said coldly, Apologies. Our academy isn't short of teachers. If you want a teaching position, go to Barak City. The Botanical Academy and Barak Academy, both advanced Spirit Master academies, are regularly recruiting. Thank you for the elder's guidance, Lin Yu replied casually, then took Qian Renxue and turned to leave. As they walked away, a burly, yellow-haired youth about 15 or 16 dropped from the tree and fixed the departing pair with a greedy look. Just as he was about to follow, Li Yusong's voice cut through, cool and unhurried. Dai Mubai, if you value your life, don't follow them. That man is at least a spirit king. He could beat you with one hand. Dai Mubai's expression soured instantly. He snorted and stalked off toward the village, face full of displeasure. Tang San, surprised by Lin Yu's apparent age and strength, made a mental note of it and felt even more disdainful of Dai Mubai. Without a strong imperial background or genuine talent, Dai Mubai was, in Tang San's view, useless. Everyone on the continent knew the White Tiger was a prestigious legacy, martial soul of an empire. The surname Dai made his status obvious. The Shrek teachers who had traveled across the Douluo Continent for years knew that as well. Once Dai Mubai left, the small crowd reassembled and recruitment continued. This time, there were indeed students who met Shrek's conditions. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, meanwhile, settled on a light-colored blanket in a nearby field. Qian Renxue had Lin Yu's head in her lap and gently massaged his hair. That Tang San you mentioned, she said casually, given his age, he's about to break through to Spirit Elder. His talent is good, but why is he so important to you? Qian Renxue became soft and tender around Lin Yu because he had won her heart. In front of others, she was still the proud little angel, but with him, she let her guard down. Lin Yu lay with one hand holding her smooth, warm hand and smiled faintly. If I told you he might be Tang Hao's son, Sister Xuer. Qian Renxue sat up sharply and lifted Lin Yu off her knees. Xiao Wu, are you serious? Of course, I wouldn't lie to you. Their eyes met. Lin Yu's palm brushed her cheek. There was a tenderness in his voice as he recounted what Ghost Leopard had recently found out about Tang San and the strange encounter with Tang Hao back when he and Qian Daoliu had been hunting rabbits. Qian Renshue's beautiful eyes widened. You actually ran into all that when you were catching that 100,000-year-old spirit beast? Tang Hao might have an unknown divinity backing him. Lin Yu toyed with her fingers and chuckled. Don't worry, I'll deal with anything involving divinity. Sister Shuer, you just focus on improving yourself. I'll listen to you. She smiled, then a sly gleam appeared in her eyes. So how do we handle that lustful imperial prince from the Star Luo Empire? Should we have Uncle Shi and the others act and throw him into Barak City? If he were the emperor, maybe we could do that. An imperial prince still has some protection. If people find out it's a frame-up, the Star Luo Empire could retaliate perfunctorily. We have to be careful. Qian Renxue, who preferred being spoiled by Lin Yu and hated scheming, nodded meekly. Xiao Wu, I'm really bad at this. All those schemes are up to you. By the way, your birthday's in a few days. After that, you'll be 18. It's a pity we're not in Heaven-Do City. Your coming-of-age ceremony would attract so many noble young ladies. Lin Yu showed a helpless look, but also fondness. Sister Shuer, just tell me what you actually want. No need to hint. Standing on tiptoe to meet his gaze, Qian Renshue's golden eyes softened. Her lips brushed his ear. After you've handled your business, Xiao Wu, I'll give you the most precious, unique coming-of-age gift. How's that? Whatever the gift was, Lin Yu looked forward to it. She was lavish in her affections. He agreed without thinking. They lingered a while longer in the field, then returned to the Rose Hotel in Dugu City. After settling Qian Renxue, Lin Yu sent Serpent Dragon to Barak City to hunt for a suitable scapegoat of considerable status. The plan was ready, but precautions were still necessary. Daimubai might be nothing more than a lustful tiger outwardly, but the Star Luo imperial family behind him was not to be underestimated like the Heaven-Do royal family. They would have to remain vigilant. Chapter 150, Daimubai dies in a foreign land. As in the original timeline, Juju King and Ning Rongrong still arrived at Shrek Academy and passed the entrance examination. Lin Yu's influence was still limited, so none of that changed. Among the 7 who had come together, only 1 rabbit had died so far, and Tang San had been brought to Shrek Academy when Yu Xiaogang sought refuge with Flender. With their numbers already small, Flender, acting as dean, decided, with Yu Xiaogang's tacit approval, to take the group to the Great Spirit Arena in Dugu City to help the 2 newcomers integrate faster. Before they left for Dugu City, a small incident occurred. Ning Rongrong, assigned to train with Oscar, behaved like the spoiled child she was and was sharply reprimanded by Flender, who held final authority. As a result, among the new students, only Juju Qing accompanied Flender to the Great Spirit Arena. The 4 older students, including Tang San, remained behind. More than 2 hours after the group entered the Soul Dueling Arena, Daimubai, usually unruly but now glowering after being snubbed by his fiancée, stormed off to blow off steam. He quickly arrived at a familiar, lavish hotel. He was a regular there. The madam who ran the place immediately approached him with an ingratiating smile. Oh my, I wondered why the magpies were chattering so loudly outside my door this morning. It's young Master Dai. The flattery pleased Daimubai. He tossed a gold token worth 1,000 gold coins to the woman and said arrogantly, I'm in a bad mood today, and I have high standards. If what you bring me isn't satisfactory, not only will you lose this money, I can make sure your hotel won't last. You know I always carry out my words, Daimubai. The madam forced a smile and agreed, cursing her luck inwardly. Because Daimubai was a frequent and lucrative customer, she quickly brought out 2 pretty, fragile-looking girls who had been left with her by fate. When the 2 girls were presented, pretty, innocent-looking, their appearances only slightly inferior to Juju King's, Daimubai's sullen face brightened at once, and he spoke in a gentler tone. Why did I bother trying to please that woman and get rebuffed when you had such beauties here the whole time? He shoved the madam aside and grabbed the 2 girls with lascivious eyes. Terrified, the girls struggled, but without spirit power, they stood no chance against Daimubai, a high-level spirit elder. Just as he was about to drag them up to the penthouse, someone moved to intervene. Qian Renxue, whose attire had been altered and who had been protected too well by Lin Yu, felt her sense of justice flare. She drew to kill the lustful tiger with a single sword stroke, only to be stopped in time by Lin Yu. She ground her white teeth, anger still burning in her chest. At the same time, a young man in sunflower-embroidered luxury clothes appeared on the top floor and blocked Dai Mubai's path. A faint infatuation crossed his dull eyes as he reached out and seized the girls Dai Mubai was holding. Dai Mubai flew into a murderous rage. He released the girls, activated his spirit, and 3 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, purple, appeared. A white tiger phantom rose behind him, and a character meaning king glowed on his forehead. He erupted into his 3rd spirit ability, White Tiger Vajra Transformation. With the power surge, he could have handled a few rounds even against a newly broken-through spirit ancestor. The royal youth in the sunflower attire calmly summoned his own spirit, the sunflower. The sunflower is a top-tier plant spirit, and when its binding ability is released, it is far stronger than the blue-silver grass. It was also a symbol of the Balak Kingdom's royal family. Where Serpent Dragon had found this young royal was a mystery to Lin Yu. The royal youth was not weak. He, too, had 3 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, purple, though his raw spirit power was a bit less than Dai Mubai's. Relying on the sunflower's suppression, he controlled the situation despite Dai Mubai's advantage. After a prolonged exchange with no breakthrough, Dai Mubai roared in frustration, and his 2nd yellow ring flashed. A white beam of light shot from his mouth. The White Tiger Light Wave, a spirit ability with strong defensive penetration. The beam cleaved through the sunflower vines as it struck. Just as the royal youth was about to be struck dead by the White Tiger Light Wave, a burst of spirit power swept in and merged with the beam. The surge amplified the light wave until it obliterated the royal youth's head in an instant. Under the dim lights, everyone watched in stunned silence as the royal youth's head vanished before them. Most of the onlookers were ordinary people unaccustomed to such brutality. Chaos erupted immediately. Several figures moved at once. Serpent Dragon was the fastest. Before the astonished Dai Mubai could react, Serpent Dragon leapt in and used a dagger to behead him. The 3rd prince of the Douluo Empire died on the spot in Suotuo City of the Balak Kingdom. No time to feel unnecessary pain. At the same instant Dai Mubai fell, Ghost Leopard and Shishe struck silently and killed the 2 Douluo imperial family spirit saints who had been shadowing Dai Mubai with White Tiger martial souls. Everything was over before the crowd could recover. As long as the attackers avoided contact, the news would rush back to the imperial capital, Douluo City. Lin Yu's chief concern now was simple and grave. How would the Douluo Emperor react to Dai Mubai's inexplicable death in a foreign land? Chapter 151, Douluo Empire sends troops, Balak Kingdom in peril. Conflicts between spirit masters were common, arguing, skirmishes, displays of power, but outright killing was rare. Reputation mattered more than anything. Without it, no one would trust you, and a spirit master's life would be nearly impossible. Even mercenary spirit masters who lived by the sword guarded their image carefully. That public face hid countless hidden ways to ruin an enemy without shedding blood. After confirming Dai Mubai's death, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue left together. Before they departed, Qian Renxue, soft-hearted in her own way, took the 2 women with them, intending to keep them as attendants. Half an hour was all it took for shocking news to spread through the district. People might not have known who Dai Mubai was, but everyone knew the hotel he frequented. Dean Flender, who rushed over when he heard, caught wind of the rumors and felt a sudden, inexplicable chill. He pressed a passerby with a few copper coins, and the man, not wanting to offend the dean, told what he knew. They fought over women, young masters, foolishly, he said. Flender, usually stern and reserved, couldn't help but be amused at the initial image, 2 young spirit elders fighting over 2 beauties. Yet when the full story came clear, when the woman at the hotel, trembling and tearful, finally blurted out that young Master Dai had been killed, Flender's amusement vanished. "What? Say that again!" he roared, his voice climbing 8 octaves in a heartbeat. The authority of a level 78 high-tier spirit saint filled the room. Under that pressure, the middle-aged woman had no choice but to tell everything she'd seen. When Flender heard mention of the Balak royal family, his expression drained. He had known Dai Mubai's identity from the first day he arrived at Shrek Academy. This was no ordinary student. This was a prince of the Douluo Empire. For a moment, Flender considered fleeing Suotuo City with the Academy's elders and students. but he could not let a favored student's fate be left unexplained. Though Daimubai had been reckless, even lecherous at times, he had shown respect toward Flender. In his role as dean, Flender refused to abandon him. Flender collected Daimubai's body and the bodies of the 2 spirit saints who had been with him. For safety, he led Shrek Academy's people to Hunter Town near the Stardew Great Forest, then dispatched a messenger to the Star Luo capital with a letter reporting Daimubai's death and delivering the bodies. 10 days later, the Star Luo imperial court seethed with fury. The emperor's face was ashen, his voice low and terrible. "My son, a prince of the Star Luo Empire, has been killed by the Balak Kingdom's royal family. What do you propose I do to avenge him?" The counselors, eager to align with the imperial will, answered at once, "Your subjects request that your majesty send troops to the Balak Kingdom and avenge the third prince." Daiwasi, Daimubai's elder brother, who had been locked in a bitter rivalry with him, stepped forward despite their enmity. Blood ties and imperial dignity mattered above personal grievance. "Imperial father," he said, face hard, "the death of third brother is tragic. Your son asks leave to lead the army. Within a month I will conquer the Balak Kingdom." "Good. You shall lead 500,000 soldiers to the Balak border. There must be no delay," the emperor ordered. Though he suspected something amiss in the reports, the emperor put the honor of the Star Luo family first. The scandal of a prince being killed in a brothel could not be permitted to stain the empire's prestige, no matter that Dean Flender had personally returned the bodies. As the order was given, the emperor added quietly, "Should you encounter the so-called Shrek Academy near Suotuo City on this campaign, Waisi, you know what to do." "Yes, imperial father, I will deal with Shrek Academy." Daiwasi bowed stiffly. The humiliation of a prince's death in public demanded not only vengeance, but also that any institution involved be brought to heel. The Star Luo Empire mobilized like a living war machine. Troops from across the realm streamed toward the border with the Balak Kingdom. Word of the imperial mobilization reached even the 2 figures hiding in Suotuo City, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, who watched the signs with grave concern. By coincidence, on this same day, it was Lin Yu's birthday. Chapter 152. When a daughter marries, may she bring harmony to her household. Within the Star Luo Empire, troop movements were not hidden. Everything was done openly. The reason was simple. No one in the Star Luo Empire, from top to bottom, had ever taken the Balak Kingdom seriously. 500,000, roughly the Balak Kingdom's total military strength across all fronts, sounded formidable on paper, but numbers alone meant little. In quality and training, the difference was vast. Even among the major vassal states of the Heaven Do Empire, the Balak's army, though the strongest among them, could not compare to the Star Luo forces, nor to the Star Luo Empire itself, which was considered the continent's elite. Even the Heaven Do Empire, a peer of Star Luo, could not match its strength. Watching the Star Luo army mobilize and push toward their shared border, Kundela, king of the Balak Kingdom, felt like an ant on a hot pan. Those around him exchanged uneasy looks. They had long since decided what they would do once they left the palace. Once the moment came, they would return home, pack their families, and quietly head north into the territory of the Heaven Do Empire. "A monk rings his bell only while he is a monk," the saying went. Seeing Kundela pace, some ministers began offering advice, all to the same end. Hurry to Heaven Do City, petition for reinforcements. They would accompany him and appeal to their suzerain for aid. Kundela was no fool. He understood the true meaning behind their eagerness. After giving them a meaningful look and accepting that these officials and spirit masters were the foundation he had built, he sighed. "Very well. If you are willing, follow me to Heaven Do City to request aid." While consenting to send his ministers to plead with the Heaven Do Empire, Kundela also mobilized nearly all of Balak's elite forces, about 300,000 troops, to the kingdom's northern region, planning to use the rank-and-file garrison to meet the Star Luo advance and thereby preserve the elite units he had spent years training. After the ministers departed, Kundela withdrew to a quiet room in the palace and took from a drawer a spirit hall token marked with 5 spirits. He turned it over in his hand with a complex expression and murmured, "Not yet, at least not now." Clouds of war settled over Suotuo City. a major grain hub. News of the Douluo mobilization had reached the city, and many residents were already gathering their families and heading north toward Heaven Do territory. On the third floor of the Rose, Qian Renxue leaned against a window in an unusually good mood. She pursed her lips and drained the glass of red wine. Before she could react, a tall figure slipped up behind her and wrapped his arms around her slender waist. Sister Shuer, it seems our first step succeeded. The Douluo Empire really does care about their imperial family's dignity, Lin Yu said, his voice low. Who else could be so close to Qian Renxue but Lin Yu? She set the empty glass down, her fair face flushed from the wine. Tilting her head, her golden eyes looked at him with a dazed softness. Yes, your goal was achieved. Anything else? Acting spoiled was one of the many useless skills Shuer had learned from Lin Yu, but it was useless against him. He closed the distance without hesitation and claimed her lips. His arms tightened around her waist, pulling her flush against him. The kiss snapped Qian Renxue back to the present. A mist passed through her golden eyes. She, usually forward, stopped the kiss and steadied her breathing. Her smooth hand patted Lin Yu's chest. Bad little brother, all you do is bully your older sister. Lin Yu only smiled and let warm breath ghost by her ear. How is that bullying? I'm only helping Sister Shuer remember. Today is my coming-of-age ceremony, Sister Shuer. Under his teasing, Qian Renxue melted into his arms. Though 4 years his senior, she was still an innocent maiden and couldn't withstand the intimacy. At the mention of a coming-of-age ceremony, her face flushed deeper. Her hand stroked Lin Yu's cheek. The usually bright stars in her eyes had gone hazy. Holding him close, she finally spoke, voice soft and steady. I remember when I first met you. You had only just awakened your spirit and were still a child. But now, little brother, you're 18. You're a grown man. Time passes so quickly. Over the years, because of you, I saw myself and learned many things. Otherwise, I might still be foolishly competing with that woman and not making use of what's around me. As she spoke, sweetness softened her features until the haze cleared. Seeming to make a decision, she leaned her head on his shoulder, wrapped her arms around his neck, and said with solemn seriousness, Xiao Wu, you once promised you'd always stand by your older sister. You've kept that promise. Now your older sister is willing to give herself to you, to be your wife. Lin Yu felt a surge of excitement. He answered with quiet determination, Shuer, no matter what, I will stay by your side. The way he addressed her had changed, no longer Sister Shuer, but simply Shuer. Only the elders in the Hall of Worship had used that formality before, and she had long been accustomed to it. Hearing it from Lin Yu, however, stirred something unfamiliar and delightful in her. She wondered if this was the love written about in books. A ripple passed through her heart. She felt as if she already possessed it. They sealed that moment with another knowing kiss. Their feelings reached a peak that needed a ceremony to make the union official and permanent. Chapter 153. That can still increase spirit power? After a night of passionate intimacy, Lin Yu slept soundly until noon the next day before he slowly woke. When his pale red eyes opened, they met the golden figure leaning over him. Having gone through the most important baptism of her life, Qian Renxue no longer felt shy before the man she loved. A gentle smile lit her clear, beautiful eyes. Good morning, Xiao Wu. Her delicate body slid off Lin Yu. He felt a faint reluctance but let her go, allowing her to lie down beside him. Last night, they had fully expressed their love for one another. The experience had shaken Lin Yu to his core, while Qian Renxue, though radiant, seemed a little exhausted. After greeting him, she could not fight the fatigue and fell fast asleep again. Lin Yu did not wake her. He wrapped an arm around her soft, downy body, kissed her exquisite cheek, straightened the quilt, and drifted back to sleep. When he woke the next time, night had already fallen. The beauty he had been holding was gone, left behind only a faint scent and a few strands of golden hair. Lin Yu felt a pinch of disappointment, but he changed into dry clothes and tidied the bed. He couldn't help the small laugh that escaped him. Cher really is something. She even took the sheets. What? Is that not allowed? A proud snort, and a pair of warm, fair arms slipped around him from behind. Qian Renxue's eyes shone with mischief. The knowledge that they were truly husband and wife filled her with sweetness. Though several years older than Lin Yu, she behaved coquettishly in front of him, giving him only her best for the man she loved. After a round of sweet talk, Qian Renxue, wearing a pale golden dress, easily forgave him, and the matter of the sheet was dropped. Then she frowned slightly, a curious light crossing her face. "Xiao Yu," she asked, "have you noticed your cultivation improving?" Lin Yu froze. If she hadn't mentioned it, he wouldn't have realized. He had only recently broken through to level 67, but now, seemingly in a single leap, he had reached level 69, 2 levels gained at once. It saved him more than half a year of painstaking cultivation. His gaze landed on Qian Renxue. She pursed her lips. "I'm level 80 now. Should you be thanking me, Xiao Yu?" Qian Renxue had been stuck at the peak of level 79 for nearly half a year. Despite her excellent innate aptitude and the enhancement from the sublimated coxcomb phoenix sunflower, for the past 4 years she'd pushed through breakthroughs quickly, but this sudden bottleneck puzzled Lin Yu. He hadn't expected that intimacy could trigger a breakthrough for both of them. At the same time, it left him uneasy. He felt as though some unseen hand had been suppressing Qian Renshue's advancement. In the ethereal god realm, atop a 10,000-meter ancient tree of life in the forest where the goddess of life dwelt, the goddess of life sat in a jade-green silk dress with the god of kindness beside her in white. They watched the couple in the pure white room reflected in a mirror with great interest. The god of kindness blinked and teased. "Xiao Lu, your good disciple seems to have noticed." So what if he noticed? Someone unethically restricted little Angel's strength. Why can't I help little Angel break through the obstruction? The goddess of life smiled, gentle as ever, but a rare cold flash passed through her eyes. It was hard to imagine what wickedness could incite such anger in the usually mild goddess. The god of kindness, who clearly understood something, wrapped an arm around her waist and whispered, "Xiao Luer, don't worry, your disciple might go further than us. Facing absolute power, no matter how much someone schemes, he'll only be a clown." Comforted, the goddess of life eased. Just as she was about to reply, the god of kindness' wandering hands drew a sharp exclamation from her. "Xiao Bai!" A white figure flew out of the ancient tree of life, and the goddess of life's cry scattered birds and beasts across the entire southern forest. A few days passed quickly after that. Having discovered the effect, Lin Yu took every opportunity to accompany Qian Renxue. She never minded his motives. Whatever he needed, she would not refuse. After another night together, they dressed and, with reluctance, left the room that held so many precious memories. They descended the stairs together. Qian Renxue wore her usual pure white veil, but there was a change in her aura. The woman in her had deepened, no longer merely the girl he had known. Her hair was styled in the way of a married woman, a constant subtle declaration that she belonged to someone. After checking out, Lin Yu planned to take her into the Star Do Great Forest. Since the disappearance of 100,000-year and older spirit beasts over a millennium ago, those that had reached such a milestone in the last 1,000 years were exceedingly rare. Still, the Star Do Great Forest, the most biodiverse spirit beast region on the Douluo Continent, might still harbor a suitable 100,000-year spirit beast. Suotuo City lay 300 to 400 miles from the forest. They flew for an hour and arrived at Hunter Town on its edge. The town was untouched by the Star Luo Empire's approach. Shops and spirit masters bustled as usual. The lively scene brightened Qian Renshue's face. She had never seen such a place before. An ardent foodie, she dragged Lin Yu from stall to stall buying jerky made from the forest's unique spirit beasts. Walking along the road, Qian Renxue nestled into Lin Yu's arms, eating with relish. When he wasn't looking, a sly gleam crossed her eyes. She pecked his cheek and darted away, her silver bell-like laughter scattering along the path. Chapter 154. Qian Renxue gets snatched away at her doorstep. Because he had stayed with Qian Renxue, Lin Yu hadn't entered the Star Do Great Forest the day before. Instead, they'd rested the night at an inn in Hunter Town. Just remembering the pitiful look the usually stubborn Qian Renxue had worn the previous night filled Lin Yu with a strange sense of accomplishment. Bullying her a little each day really did make him feel refreshed. At that moment, Qian Renxue, chewing on a bun, shot him a glare and said in a slightly hoarse voice, Lin Yu, if you bully me again, don't think about sleeping with me anymore. Hearing his lover's petulant warning, Lin Yu immediately softened his expression. He didn't want tonight ruined by a sulk. Although things had been intense the night before, Qian Renxue still felt a little weak. After a simple breakfast, she nevertheless chose to follow Lin Yu into the Douluo Great Forest. Hunter Town was only a few dozen li from the forest. Before long, the two arrived and entered through an old, well-worn path. Ghost Leopard, Serpent Dragon, and Sishe, who had been shadowing them discreetly, soon emerged from the trees to guard the couple. It wasn't paranoia. The Douluo Great Forest contained genuine 100,000-year spirit beasts. Even the Sky Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape, spirit beasts that had broken through within the last 1,000 years, had extraordinary bloodlines and power far above that of ordinary 100,000-year beasts. The Sky Azure Bull Python's strength rivaled a rank 97 titled Douluo. On the continent, only a few elders in the Spirit Hall reached that rank. Ghost Leopard, Lin Yu's strongest escort, was only a rank 95 titled Douluo. The difference was obvious. Under the protection of the three titled Douluo, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue quickly crossed the outer area and entered the mixed zone. Unlike the core, where fewer beasts remained, the mixed zone was vast and teeming with a complex variety of spirit beasts, the likeliest place to find a recently broken through 100,000-year spirit beast suitable for Qian Renxue. Even then, matching attributes were uncertain, and they could not prevent a beast from escaping. At best, they could mark its location and have the Hall of Worship Elders handle it. They started on the eastern side and passed through dense wood after wood, encountering many creatures. Unfortunately, among 10,000-level existences, the oldest they found was only a 70,000-year-old, earth-crouching armored beast, far below what Qian Renxue needed. Days passed, and still no suitable spirit beast appeared. Along the way, several people who discovered Qian Renshue's true identity grew lecherous or wicked. Lin Yu dealt with them decisively, leaving them to become meals for the forest's carnivorous spirit plants. As they neared the southern mixed zone, Lin Yu suddenly tightened his grip on Qian Renshue's soft, jade-like hand. "Shuer, don't worry. I'll find the most suitable spirit ring for you." Qian Renxue smiled softly, leaned her tall, delicate frame against him, and whispered, "Xiao Wu, don't worry. If we can't find a perfect match, we can take one with a higher cultivation age for now. When I pass the god test, it can all be made up for." She was growing gentler by the day, less like his older sister and more like a dutiful wife. In her concern for Lin Yu, she'd almost forgotten that woman. Not entirely, she still bore a grudge, but she didn't want Lin Yu dragged into her feud. As long as a spirit ring's attributes matched, a slightly lower age would do. Lin Yu affectionately rubbed her delicate nose, about to reply, when a presence approached slowly through the trees. He narrowed his eyes and unleashed a Spirit King aura, then shouted coldly toward the forest, "Who's there? Come out, or I'll make you." Qian Renxue, who'd been focused on Lin Yu, tensed and scanned their surroundings. She frowned. An intrusion on their intimacy didn't please her, but she stepped back slightly and let Lin Yu stand in front. Not out of dependence, but out of that wife's deference to her husband. She had never considered Lin Yu a subordinate, but the other half of her life. A withered old woman emerged from the trees, her aura dry and harsh. Her voice, a grating caw, carried a sinister laugh. This old woman's luck's quite good, to run into a peerless genius like you, a spirit king at only 20. She was wrinkled, white-haired, and wore slightly shabby clothes. Beside her stood a young girl in purple, short-haired and lively, perhaps 16 or 17, proud and graceful like a peacock. The girl, hearing the old woman's claim, blurted, "Impossible, Grandma, you're mistaken. How old is he? How could he be a spirit king?" Lin Yu's eyes narrowed. "What rank I am is my business. More importantly, why have you been secretly watching me and my wife?" The old woman chuckled, her tone suddenly mild. "Young man, don't be impatient. This old woman is Chao Tianxiang, a rank 68 Tool Spirit Emperor. Folks in the Jianghu call me Snake Granny." Dragon Duke and Snake Granny, Lin Yu realized with a start. If the old woman was Chao Tianxiang, the girl beside her could be no one else but Meng Yuran. "I've heard of you," Lin Yu said coolly. "Dragon Duke and Snake Granny, your names carry some weight." Chao Tianxiang's smile faded into a frown. Since you've heard of me, everything becomes easier to discuss. Join our family, and I'll have my granddaughter marry you. She's pretty and clever, no worse than that ordinary woman beside you. Silence fell. Qian Renxue, standing next to Lin Yu, was incandescent with fury. She had disguised her true power with her family's legacy spirit bone to keep him safe. And now the young man she thought she'd finally won was being courted right at her doorstep. Her face went pale with rage. Chapter 155, Serpent Dragon and Dragon Duke travel together. She had seen people steal money, spirit rings, spirit bones, even women, but this was the first time she'd seen someone try to steal a man. Her man, Qian Renxue. It was intolerable. Qian Renshue's fair cheeks puffed slightly. She snorted, straightened her perfect posture, and said with cool sarcasm, "Heh, some people really have no sense of their place. With an old geezer like you, there are some people you just can't afford to offend." Then, she dispelled the concealment on her angel spirit bone. A surge of spirit power, stronger than a spirit emperor's and shot through with holiness and heat, burst out and saturated the area. Even the rarely used angelic domain blossomed into being. Eldest Miss Qian was angry, and the consequences would be severe. When the illusory seraphim appeared behind her, Chao Tianxiang immediately realized she had kicked an iron plate. Even proud Meng Yuran looked insignificant beside Qian Renxue, the little princess of Spirit Hall. This old woman was blind, Chao Tianxiang croaked, suddenly contrite. "Holy maiden, spare my daughter and me for the sake of my husband, Meng Shu." Chao Tianxiang's spirit power was only at the Spirit Emperor realm. She was no top-tier figure in the Spirit Master world. Yet, she'd spent her life in that world, and knew very well who she could not afford to cross. The six-winged angel, the only divine rank spirit on the Douluo Continent, the angel clan's legacy spirit, Spirit Hall's ruling symbol. Even if she didn't know Qian Renxue personally, she understood the girl's status must be extraordinary. By uttering the words, "Holy Maiden," she had spoken Qian Renshue's true identity aloud. She didn't expect those words would cost her life. A flash of cold crept into Qian Renshue's beautiful eyes. 7 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black, and 1 red, whirled into being around her. A long sword condensed in her hand, and she thrust it toward Chao Tianxiang. Chao Tianxiang had been in the Spirit Master world her whole life. She hadn't been entirely consumed by begging. The instant Qian Renxue attacked, she moved to shield Meng Yuran, planting herself in front with her snake staff. Her 4th spirit ring flared, casting a purple glow. The snake staff met the spirit-condensed longsword, and the two collided. They slammed back dozens of meters before Chao Tianxiang managed to halt the charge. She had blocked the strike, but she was injured. Qian Renxue not only had overwhelming spirit power, her spirit itself outclassed the snake staff. Had Chao Tianxiang not been a seasoned spirit emperor with practiced defenses, she wouldn't just have been gravely wounded, she would have been struck down in a single blow. Qian Renxue was a little surprised she'd been blocked, but not deterred. If one sword wouldn't finish them, she'd use another. With Lin Yu's guidance, he who carried a legacy of sword arts, her swordsmanship had advanced rapidly. She had already entered the second realm of swordsmanship, sword intent. Though new to it, she outmatched over 90% of the continent's sword-type spirit users. She thrust again, determined to end it. Just as the sword aimed to kill Chao Tianxiang, Meng Yuran threw herself forward to block. Meng Yuran's eyes were bloodshot. A thin mist clouded her gaze. She screamed at Qian Renxue, "Stop! Don't hurt my grandma!" "Yuran, what are you doing? Go find your grandfather!" Chao Tianxiang shouted, panic threading her voice. Qian Renxue frowned at the display of filial affection, then shifted her attack into a horizontal slash, the spirit sword sweeping for Meng Yuran. At that instant, a pale yellow dragon-head staff shot up and intercepted the blade. An old man with white hair and beard stood there, the staff steady in his hands. His cultivation was astonishing, an 85th rank spirit Douluo. Even an expert one realm above Qian Renxue, though in a real duel, he might not easily beat her. Meng Yuran's tear-filled face lit up. "Grandpa, you finally came! She actually tried to kill me and Grandma. You must." "Ah!" With a sharp slap, Meng Shu sent Meng Yuran flying 7 or 8 meters. Even as a quasi-spirit elder, she grunted in pain at the unexpected blow and curled up on the ground, bewildered at why her grandfather had struck her. At that moment, 3 titled Dulo, Ghost Leopard, Sishui, and Serpent Dragon, moved in to surround Mengshu. The pressure of 3 titles bore down. Even Mengshu's face paled. He bowed respectfully, struggling under the weight of their presence. This old man has seen the Holy Maiden and the 3 esteemed titled Douluo. My wife and granddaughter did not know their place. Please spare them. I am willing to accept any punishment. Qian Renxue chuckled softly. Heh, maybe that would have worked before, but I'm not willing to take that risk now. She strolled over to Lin Yu and slipped her hand into his. In an instant, she looked demure and sweet, a small bird tucked up against him. Before the Mengshu trio could react, Serpent Dragon and Shishui struck, and Chao Tianxiang and Meng Yiran, the weakest, were taken down. Mengshu narrowly avoided Ghost Leopard's first grab, but couldn't evade for long. In a matter of rounds, he was captured. Ghost Leopard bowed to Lin Yu and Qian Renxue with the deference of a subordinate. Young master-in-law, young lord, how should we handle this family? Lin Yu's voice was deceptively soft, but the decision in it left no room for mercy. The timing is special. Do as Cher said. This is the Star Do Great Forest. Dangerous. Even with a spirit Douluo leading a team, people die here all the time. Ghost Leopard knew what that meant and did not balk. He moved out like a ghost, taking the 3 captives away. He didn't want the young master-in-law or the young lord to be involved in any unpleasant business. With Ghost Leopard gone, Serpent Dragon and Sishui melted back into the shadows and resumed their protective posts. Only Qian Renxue hesitated, as if she wanted to say more. Lin Yu understood her perfectly. He smiled and patted her back, speaking gently, almost indulgently. That old woman brought it on herself. Sure, remember, when an avalanche happens, no snowflake is innocent. Even if you pity Meng Yiran, she's still their granddaughter. That's enough. Qian Renxue considered his words. She nodded, thoughtful at first, then with firm agreement in front of Lin Yu. Chapter 156, The Blazing Flame Red Crow That Will Offer a Sacrifice. After dealing with the Dragon Duke, the Snake Matron, and that troublesome Meng Yiran, Ghost Leopard quickly rejoined Lin Yu and his group. Along the way, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue ran into a few more spirit beasts with decent strength and relatively strong bloodlines. Their only flaw was age. The strongest among them was only a 50,000-year Holy Light Red Tiger. Although Qian Renxue didn't strictly need a 100,000-year ring for her 8th spirit ring, a 50,000-year beast was still on the low side. Then again, because a certain young lady hadn't fought for some time, that last beast, the 50,000-year Holy Light Red Tiger, unfortunately became her stepping stone. The fight began. The Holy Light Red Tiger's strength was roughly that of a slightly weaker spirit Douluo. It initially relied on the toughness of its beast body to hold Qian Renxue to a draw, exchanging blow for blow. But as the battle wore on, Qian Renxue adapted to its rhythm and grew neater in her attacks. The tiger that had been able to hold its own gradually fell behind and was ultimately extinguished by her 4th spirit skill, Angel Descent. After the kill, Qian Renxue, curious, prodded the tiger's corpse with the spirit power longsword condensed in her hand. Luck smiled on her. They found a spirit bone, the left leg, on the body. Neither Lin Yu nor Qian Renxue made a big deal of it. In the end, they handed it to Serpent Dragon, hoping he could use it to push past rank 95. The bone came from a 50,000-year beast, so it was hardly ideal for a spirit master of Serpent Dragon's level to break through with, but Serpent Dragon was still moved. After all, the spirit bone he'd obtained from the old dragon had been given to Sishui. Ghost Leopard, meanwhile, couldn't use the bone because the attributes didn't match, so he wasn't envious. After that, there were no other 10,000 or higher year beasts. Only a few scattered avian spirit beasts, roughly 1,000 years in age, circled above a basin. The odd scene piqued Qian Renxue's curiosity. She was leaning against Lin Yu and quietly tightened her fingers around his. A hopeful glint lit her bright eyes. Xiao Wu, you see that too, right? That place is strange. Why don't we go take a look? Lin Yu didn't refuse, but he didn't agree at once either. This was the Star Do Great Forest, spirit beast territory, so caution was necessary. At that moment, Ghost Leopard, the strongest of the 3 titled Douluo with them, slipped out of the shadows and said, a little solemnly, "Young lord, son-in-law, The situation ahead is indeed unusual. There's a rocky area in the center of that basin, and it seems there's a very powerful spirit beast holed up there. But that beast carries an aura of decay. I suspect it doesn't have much time left. Those dense flocks of birds circling in the sky are very likely here for that beast. As Ghost Leopard finished, a voice carrying a tired, desolate amusement sounded right beside them. Hey, human experts, your guess is correct. I really am about to die. Startled, Serpent Dragon and Shishui, who had been hiding, stepped out and put themselves between the voice and Lin Yu and Qian Renxue. The mysterious speaker seemed unconcerned, though, and replied before they could say anything. No need to be so nervous. I'm just an unremarkable 100,000-year spirit beast who failed my tribulation and has only a few days left. It's rare to see people here. Surely there's nothing wrong with me wanting to talk? Lin Yu felt a momentary flush of humility. 100,000-year spirit beast was rare these days, yet it called itself unremarkable. He was about to say something when Qian Renxue looked at him with gentle eyes and murmured, Xiao Wu, whatever you decide, I'll support you. If the beast really was a 100,000-year spirit beast, the benefits were obvious. A 100,000-year ring for Qian Renxue would be invaluable for the god test. After a brief exchange of glances, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue moved toward the rocky area in the basin. Ghost Leopard, Serpent Dragon, and Shishui as subordinates could only follow. After a short walk through the unusually quiet woods in the basin, they reached the rocky outcrop at the center. A weak, sardonic voice greeted them. Heh, I didn't expect you to be unlike the humans of old who run away in fear. You actually came. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm a new mutation of the Dark Fire Crow clan. I call myself the Blazing Flame Red Crow. Sounds good, doesn't it? Lin Yu probed. The name's fine, but Blazing Flame Senior, why did you call us here? We have titled Douluo with us. Aren't you afraid? The Blazing Flame Red Crow sneered. Afraid? What does a dying spirit beast have to fear? From a cave a few hundred meters away, a massive avian spirit beast crawled out, supported by its wings. It was roughly 10 meters tall, its hideous scars and scorched black feathers striking to behold. It was hard to imagine how a 100,000-year beast could be reduced to such a state. Ghost Leopard, Serpent Dragon, and Shishui stepped forward and studied it. Ghost Leopard's surprise showed as he said plainly, No wonder. The Dark Fire Crow is normally a fire attribute beast, but you've developed mental attributes. You're a very rare mental attribute spirit beast. The Blazing Flame Red Crow nodded, and the weak mental pressure around it bowed to them as best it could. Alas, it said, mockingly self-aware, I'm about to die, and I can't even control my abilities properly. It's laughable. Then, surprisingly, it switched tone and addressed them again more directly. It's my luck to meet such powerful humans. Your faction in the human world must be extraordinary. Even though I'm near death, there's one thing I won't accept without a fight. There's a bargain I want to make before I go. If you're willing to agree and swear upon your spirit, I can offer a sacrifice to one of you. Chapter 157, Resentment and Sacrifice. When they heard that, Qian Renxue, Ghost Leopard, and the other two all turned to look at Lin Yu. Flying-type 100,000-year spirit beasts were already exceptionally rare, and those whose primary attribute was the even rarer mental force type were practically unheard of. Even with Qian Renxue's wide knowledge, she had never seen any spirit hall record of a 100,000-year mental force spirit beast. Lin Yu felt tempted, but caution gnawed at him. Nothing came for free, and the conditions for such a being to offer a sacrifice would almost certainly be severe. After a moment's thought, Lin Yu signaled with his eyes for Ghost Leopard and the others to stay put, then gave Qian Renxue a small, reassuring smile. He turned his attention to the Blazing Flame Red Crow before them, which was on the verge of death. Senior, you are a 100,000-year spirit beast, he said. I'm afraid your conditions won't be easy. Heh, indeed, the Blazing Flame Red Crow rasped. Human boy, do you know how I got these injuries? As it spoke, its mental force trembled violently. Fortunately, it had not completely lost its mind from fury, otherwise Lin Yu might have killed it outright. Under normal circumstances, Lin Yu would not have cut it down. Sacrifices were far more valuable than mere spirit rings. As the crow told its tale, Lin Yu and the others finally understood why it was in such a state. About 30 years ago, the blazing flame red crow, a mutated branch of the dark fire crow, had cultivated to the extreme of 99,999 years, just one breath from breaking through to a 100,000-year spirit beast. But the mutation that had raised it was also its undoing. Its origin had not completely transformed. Traces of the dark fire crow's origin remained. By chance, it met a beautiful woman who was the human form of a 100,000-year soft-bones rabbit. Surprised that a creature so low on the forest's food chain could reach such a level, it was polite to her. In conversation, it foolishly told her about its 100,000-year bottleneck. The rabbit, upon hearing this, guided it to find a rare herb called marrow cleansing grass. After much effort, it found and consumed several of the plants, purging the remaining dark fire crow origin. The moment its origin was purged, it became a 100,000-year spirit beast. Confident and proud, it didn't hesitate or delay, choosing to draw its 100,000-year heavenly tribulation at once rather than wait another 1,000 years. It had prepared for the ordeal and passed 2/3 of the tribulation unharmed, but just as it was about to finish, disaster struck. That soft-bones rabbit, the crow said bitterly, was accompanied by two powerful bloodline spirit beasts, the sky azure bull python and the titan giant ape. While I was still undergoing tribulation, they attacked me from afar and severely wounded me. I asked her why. She was the one who pointed me to the cure. The crow's voice was thick with hatred. You wouldn't believe it. She told me I shouldn't have undergone tribulation when I reached 100,000. She said that if I completed it, I would have the potential for further advancement, and for her own safety, I couldn't be allowed to remain in the Stardew Great Forest. Those wounds, inflicted while the crow was in the middle of heavenly tribulation, could not heal on their own. Only a divinity could restore such damage. Otherwise, like its current state, it could only wait in silence for death. Listening to the crow's account, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue could only smile wryly. Once spirit beasts gained sentience, they were not so different from humans, satisfied until someone else outshone them, then jealous and vengeful. It was clear the blazing flame-red crow had been set up. Its condition, unspoken, was plain to everyone. Do it, it said. Swear by your spirit that you will kill that soft-bones rabbit and the sky azure bull python and titan giant ape that aided her, and I will sacrifice myself to you. I can agree, Senior, Lin Yu replied, then told it what had happened to Xiao Wu and her mother. The crow's old enmity with Xiao Wu's mother flared anew. Upon hearing of their deaths, it could no longer restrain its mental force or its wounds. Good, good, the crow crowed, fierce. Coward, you didn't even dare to face your heavenly tribulation. You dragged things out, and now you've suffered a human tribulation of cowardice. Human boy, you and that girl beside you are both outstanding talents of your generation. You will need 100,000-year spirit rings in the future. I don't believe you'll stand by while those two sit on the lake of life. A golden light threaded with crimson, the light of sacrifice, suddenly flared. The blazing flame-red crow, proud to the end and unwilling to die ignobly, ignited its sacrificial flame. As the ritual began, Lin Yu grabbed Qian Renxue around the waist and, amid her soft cry, pushed her forward. The sacrificial light enveloped her. Qian Renxue felt helpless as the golden glow wrapped around her, but there was nothing she could do but accept the crow's gift. Lin Yu, Ghost Leopard, and the others held their positions as her protectors. Once spirit beasts reach the 100,000-year mark, in many ways they become like humans. Some wait for death when their heavenly tribulation approaches, while others embrace death to live, choosing sacrifice. Passing the tribulation grants a long period of freedom. Failing means death. Xiao Wu and her mother had been of the first kind, as had the sky azure bull python and titan giant ape under her influence. But the blazing flame-red crow had chosen the latter. It fought fate with its own flesh and will. The sacrificial light burned for a full hour. When it faded, Qian Renxue, now bearing an additional 100,000-year spirit ring, flapped her wings and flew back to Lin Yu. Chapter 158, Phoenix-Tailed Coxcomb Serpent, Shrek Academy on the Brink of Annihilation. Both of my spirit abilities are pretty good. The first is called Light of the Sacred Hall. It boosts all my attributes by 200% and dispels every negative effect except poisoning. The second is Angel's Judgment. It condenses the angelic sacred sword from my 5th spirit ability and unleashes a beam of judgment. As long as someone's mental power isn't more than 3 times mine, they'll be locked on and can't dodge. They have to take it head on. Night had fallen. Qian Renxue, curled up against Lin Yu's shoulder, nibbled at the soft-bones rabbit in small bites as she excitedly described the effects of her 2 new spirit abilities. Watching her curl up like that, Lin Yu's eyes softened with affection. He wished she could always be so carefree, but there were things she had to face on her own. Those matters concerned her in ways he couldn't simply step in and resolve. All he could do was help her grow faster in the small ways of daily life. Just then, a delicious aroma drifted over them. Lin Yu realized something and fished the braised rabbit out of the pot. It had been simmering for a long time. He had to admit that the meat of the soft-bones rabbit was far superior to any rabbit he'd known in his previous life. Using the same recipe, the taste was in a different league. Qian Renxue, who had just finished a roasted rabbit herself, noticed the fresh dish. Her cherry lips and small hands were still greasy. Xiao Wu. Her voice was sweet and coquettish, a mischievous light in her eyes. Her greasy little hand reached straight for his arm. Lin Yu had no choice but to set the braised rabbit in front of her. Despite her noble bearing and the distance she kept from others, she was still a normal girl with no resistance to delicious food, especially when it was cooked by him. After she devoured it, a very full Qian Renxue patted her flat stomach and complained in a mock-hurt voice, "Humph. Next time, no matter how good Xiao Yu's cooking is, I'd rather chew on bark and eat leaves than take another bite." Her voice was soft, but Lin Yu, on the verge of becoming a spirit saint, heard it clearly. As a light rebuke, he drew her closer, pressed his lips to hers, and his hands wandered over her. Caught off guard, Qian Renxue did not resist. The moment Lin Yu kissed her, she stilled and, without any shyness, let him be. They had only recently consummated their relationship. Both of them longed for each other, but they were still in the Stardew Great Forest. Lin Yu held and kissed her a while longer, then stopped. With Ghost Leopard and 2 others keeping watch, the 2 of them slept peacefully. At dawn, Lin Yu woke and used the leftover rabbit to make a pot of meat porridge. Qian Renxue, still half asleep, wasn't roused by the smell, but by a string of hissing noises. Her brows knit, she snapped fully awake and stood beside him. When she saw the steaming porridge, she shot him a resentful look. "Xiao Yu, why didn't you wake me?" Lin Yu smiled. "Probably nothing. Maybe just a small spirit beast under 10,000 years old. Ghost Leopard Uncle probably caught it." Sure enough, Ghost Leopard soon padded over, carrying a large snake 7 or 8 meters long. Its scales were patterned with pink. It had a pair of wings, and a fleshy crest ran along its head. "My apologies, young lord, for letting this little thing disturb your rest," Ghost Leopard said. "I didn't expect to find a phoenix-tailed coxcomb serpent here, a spirit beast that's almost extinct." Before Ghost Leopard could do more, a boy's shout cut through the clearing. "You old man, put that phoenix-tailed coxcomb serpent down for this young master." A round-faced, 12 or 13-year-old boy with a lecherous expression bounded forward. Lin Yu's lips curved slightly. The group that had just shown up were students from Shrek Academy, taking refuge in the outer mixed zone of the Stardew Great Forest. Among them was Ma Hongjun, the lecherous fat kid, and, despite his youth, the true disciple of their dean, Flender, the evil fire phoenix. Because of Daimubai's death, a cautious Flender feared that the Star Luo Empire might implicate Shrek Academy and send experts to wipe them out. So Flender had led the students deeper into the Stardew Great Forest to hide instead of fleeing to the Heavendoe Empire. He didn't trust the Heavendoe Empire to protect them. To him it seemed likely they would be sacrificed to spare the Empire. Hiding in the forest, constantly on the move, everyone was irritable. Ma Hongjun was particularly so. Seeing the spirit beast his good brother Oscar needed in Ghost Leopard's grip, he demanded it at once. Ghost Leopard, who had already noticed the Shrek students, simply looked at Lin Yu without replying. Before Lin Yu could respond, a scruffy middle-aged man in plain black robes stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Friend," he said with a grave expression, This spirit beast is meant for one of my students' third spirit ring. We've been tracking it for a long time. Please be magnanimous and hand over the phoenix-tailed coxcomb serpent. Grandmaster Yu Xiaogong would be eternally grateful. Among the 10 or so Shrek students, the man who'd stepped forward was indeed Grandmaster Yu Xiaogong, the one who had once brought Tang Chen to Shrek Academy. Lin Yu smiled and waved at Ghost Leopard. Spirit beasts are hard to come by. Since this one didn't provoke us, let it go. Ghost Leopard obeyed immediately and threw the serpent toward the Shrek group. The throw landed squarely in Yu Xiaogong's hands, a figurative slap to his face that infuriated Dean Flender. "Kid, what do you mean? Are you looking for death?" Flender roared as a cold aura burst from him. The Dean, a 78th level spirit saint, released his spirit power. Beside him, Xiao Wu, the Academy's second strongest expert and a 76th level spirit saint, also unleashed his spirit. They wanted an explanation from Lin Yu. They clearly weren't going to let the matter rest. What Flender and Zhao didn't know was that they were walking into a trap. A cold glint flashed in Lin Yu's eyes. "You two," he said quietly to his companions, "it's time to act. Don't let a single one escape." Chapter 159, Fighting Tang Hao, the Titan Giant Ape Attacks. Lin Yu's sudden strike caught the members of Shrek Academy completely off guard. Their strongest warrior was only Flender, a level 78 agility attack spirit saint. At Lin Yu's command, Serpent Dragon and Shui, two titled Douluo, moved immediately. Before Flender could react, Serpent Dragon, spear in hand, was already at his side. Over the past few years, having followed Lin Yu and acquired rare treasures, both Serpent Dragon and Shui had made up for many deficiencies. Their spirit power had risen to the 93rd level. Serpent Dragon's cultivation had advanced slightly further, nearing the 94th level. With two titled Douluo attacking together, Flender, Dean Xiao Wu, and the others of Shrek Academy grew pale. How could they not be alarmed? Tang Hao's shadow still lingered in their memories. Tang San had joined Shrek Academy long ago, but recent incidents had left Xiao Wu with a lasting complex. Tang Hao had crushed him without mercy in his heavy-handed training of Tang San. Now even Flender had been handled like an annoyance. The sight of Serpent Dragon and Shui stirred a gust of cold unease through the group. Faced with the oppressive aura of the titled Douluo, most people had no thought of resisting, except for two. Ning Rongrong of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School had spent only a short time at Shrek Academy and felt a little disoriented when she recognized Lin Yu. But memories soon returned. In her 10-odd years of life, very few people had refused to show her deference. Lin Yu was one of the few who had left a strong impression. Determined to defend the academy and herself, she shouted, "Lin Yu, whoever you are, if you dare lay a hand on me, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School will make you pay." A spoiled child can be bold in the face of danger. Despite her pride having been tempered lately, Ning Rongrong still spoke like the pampered young woman she was. Lin Yu's response was cold and immediate. He pressed a Spirit King-level aura toward her, and 2 figures hidden in the shadows beside her were forced into the open. The 2 men in white were Spirit Emperors. They stepped forward to shield Ning Rongrong, joining Flender and the others as they watched Serpent Dragon and Shui warily. Another person who didn't flinch also stepped forward, Yu Xiaogong, ordinary-faced and flat-topped. He seemed to have guessed the status of Serpent Dragon and Shui. Producing a Heaven Dew 6-star plate emblazoned with 6 symbols, he called out, "You see this token? We are agents of the Spirit Hall. No need to make things difficult." Anyone who held a Heaven Dew 6-star plate was revered as an elder of the Spirit Hall. Even if Yu Xiaogong's cultivation was low, the token itself carried weight. Serpent Dragon and Shui glanced at the token with mild surprise and dismissal. They knew who backed them, and the final interpretation of such tokens lay with that power. "A fake token, no doubt stolen," Serpent Dragon declared. "Why would it appear on someone so little? Uncles, cut him down. Don't let him swagger any longer." "Yes, young master." Even now, in front of strangers, the 2 still addressed Lin Yu as young master. Serpent Dragon flicked his long spear and lunged at Yu Xiaogong, whose face went white. His attack was swift and brutal. "No!" A roar split the air. A massive pitch-black hammer smashed down between them and the spear. A scruffy, ragged man with a cropped haircut, bronze skin, and a bristling beard appeared, clutching the hammer as if it were part of him. Humph, Spirit Hall, you only bully the weak and strong-arm others, the man snarled with obvious hate beneath his voice. The newcomer was unmistakable. Clear Sky Duuluo, Tang Hao. His arrival in the Stardew Great Forest surprised Lin Yu. He had underestimated how much his own presence would attract others. That said, Lin Yu was not intimidated. Though Tang Hao was difficult to kill because of his divine force, driving him off was not impossible. Lin Yu shot back coolly. If you were really bullying the weak, you wouldn't still be alive. What happened in Nuoding City was an accident. Do you really think you can compare to your grandfather? Tang Hao's memory of Nuoding City was deep and bitter. Xiao Wu, the 100,000-year spirit beast, had been tied to that incident. Recognition flickered across his face. His expression hardened, and he swung his hammer with a roar. Enough talk. Go to hell. Perhaps because his old injuries still plagued him, Tang Hao did not dare to be reckless. He invoked his seventh spirit ability, Martial Soul True Body. A hammer dozens of meters long loomed in the air, the clear sky hammer, and with Tang Hao's shout, it crashed down with the force of a mountain. The weight of the hammer consumed enormous spirit power, but its destructive force was beyond ordinary martial souls. Ghost Leopard hesitated. It was at the same level and dared not block straight on. Serpent Dragon and Xishui likewise held back. Lin Yu had already summoned his Qingxuang sword, and Qian Renxue unfurled his wings. Under cover from Serpent Dragon and Xishui, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue charged Tang Hao. Qian Renxue unleashed his sixth spirit ability, Angel's Roar. After sacrificing a blazing flame fire crow, a 100,000-year spirit beast whose primary attribute was mental, Qian Renshue's psychic power had undergone a qualitative leap. Angel's Roar, a control-oriented psychic ability, had risen to a new level. Tang Hao, not strong in mental force, faltered for an instant. Ghost Leopard seized the opening and struck with claws like knives. Though Tang Hao's divine force steadied him against the blow, his old wounds burst open. He spat a mouthful of blood mist. Lin Yu, poised for the moment, let a phantom of 500 rays of light gather. 5 black spirit rings compressed and fused into a single blood-red ring. A 5-colored beam of light shot through the air and slammed toward Tang Hao, the 5-colored divine light, a powerful control that could have finished him. But battles are full of variables. Far off, the ground shuddered as a grotesque silhouette rose into view. A gigantic figure dozens of meters tall, like a small mountain barreling toward the fight. The 100,000-year Titan giant ape had arrived, and the entire battle suddenly tipped into chaos. Chapter 160, Annihilating Zhao Wuji, the Abandoned Oscar. The arrival of the Titan giant ape, completely black and like an oversized gorilla, changed the expression of the ghost leopard that had just awakened. With its eyesight, there was no mistaking it. This spirit beast had reached the 100,000-year rank. The appearance of such a creature put everyone on edge, and it was the Shrek Academy side that felt it most sharply. Their strength was the weakest here. But Qian Renxue didn't care. To her, Tang Hao had always been her father's killer. Taking advantage of the few seconds Tang Hao had been restrained, she intended to avenge him. In her martial soul true body, the graceful Qian Renxue unhesitatingly activated her newly attained 8th spirit skill, Angel's Judgment. The 8th spirit ring, brighter than her 6-winged angel martial soul, flickered with red light. The angelic sacred sword, formed by her 5th spirit skill, drew a platinum beam of light down from the sky like a meteor of judgment, shining across the Stardew Great Forest. Tang Hao had just broken free from the confinement of the 5-colored divine light when Qian Renshue's light blade struck. Locked onto by her and unable to dodge, Tang Hao could only brace for the impact. For reasons unknown, the Titan giant ape suddenly charged at Serpent Dragon and Xishui, the two who were supporting Lin Yu and Qian Renxue. The ape was a formidable spirit beast with almost no glaring weaknesses. It could not fly, but otherwise its attributes were comprehensive. Forced to act, Serpent Dragon and Xishui, both titled Douluo, flew up and grappled with the ape, using their combined strength to guide it away. As the Titan giant ape was shepherded out of the way, Tang Hao still faced the descending light of judgment. Tang San, frantic for his father, cried out, "Father!" The shout reinvigorated Tang Hao's spirit. Thinking of his son, Tang Hao gave everything he had left. The first threw 6 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black, shattered in sequence, converting to pure spirit power and temporarily boosting him to the peak of rank 95, 1 step below rank 96. That sudden surge of power gave him the confidence to meet Qian Renshue's Angel's Judgment. Gripping the clear sky hammer, Tang Hao used the simplest, most brutal application of its force, the break technique. He drove the hammer from below against the descending beam. The clear sky hammer's greatest strength was its momentum, borrowing the weight of heaven and earth to crush an opponent. But that momentum was hard to harness upward, and the platinum light steadily suppressed his counterstrike. The ring explosion he launched was swallowed by the light. Just as Tang Hao, battered and nearly spent, teetered on the edge of annihilation, a mysterious golden light, suffused with a sacred aura, wrapped around him, and then, almost before anyone realized it, he vanished from where he had stood. When the platinum beam faded, Tang Hao was gone. Qian Renxue stared, stunned. Had her new spirit skill really destroyed a titled Douluo 12 ranks above her? Lin Yu was equally puzzled. He found it hard to believe that Qian Renshue's single move had completely eliminated such a powerful opponent. Recovering, Lin Yu gently patted Qian Renshue's shoulder. "How is it, Shuer? You've avenged your father. How do you feel?" She blinked and shook her head, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I can't say. Logically, I should be happy, but I don't feel it. That's all right. Whatever happens from now on, I'll be with you." After a brief embrace and a few moments of comfort, the two set off to find the rest of the Shrek team, who had retreated a short distance. Not long after, they came upon Zhao Wuji carrying the food system's spirit saint Xiao Xin. Behind him came the 2 spirit emperors Li Yu and Lu Qibin, and Oscar, barely rank 30, not yet a spirit elder. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue exchanged a look and landed in front of the 5. Zhao Wuji shoved Xiao Xin behind him, activated his martial soul true body, and transformed into a 4 to 5 meter vigorous Vajra bear, then unleashed his spirit ability, Vigorous Vajra Roar. It was a soundwave attack with a fixed, destructive trajectory. Unlike Qian Renshue's flexible, angelic roar, Zhao Wuji's was singular and direct. Lin Yu moved like a startled swan and easily avoided the roar's path. Then, sword in hand, he drew everyone, except Qian Renxue, into his sword domain. Inside the isolated micro-world of the sword domain, every opponent's strength was suppressed. Countless sword chi lines crossed and pierced. Xiao Xin had nowhere to hide. In moments, a sword chi struck through his head and killed him. Lu Qibin and Li Yu tried to retaliate with their star luo chess and dragon-patterned staff, but under the sword domain's suppression, their attacks were weak, and they had forgotten Qian Renxue was still beside Lin Yu. The two, never exceptionally powerful, were easily dealt with by her. While Qian Renxue handled them, Lin Yu swung horizontally, and a sword chi pierced Zhao Wuji's head. He died on the spot. "Zhao Wuji's gravity ability is annoying," Lin Yu said as he stepped back. "If it weren't for that, I'd have finished him in 5 breaths." Qian Renxue smiled and teased. "All right, Xiao Yu, there's still one more. The food system innate full spirit power user you mentioned. He's barely alive." Lin Yu glanced over. Oscar, inside the sword domain, had endured sword chi that would have killed ordinary people, but he was on his last breath. He coughed blood and managed a grim smile. I always thought I was clever, but in the end, I was abandoned by others." The words fell heavy. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue were momentarily silent. Qian Renxue nudged Lin Yu's arm and whispered, "Xiao Yu, why don't you finish it?" Lin Yu nodded and raised his Qingxuang sword. He sent Oscar, the brilliant food system spirit master, on his final journey. As a fellow Shrek member, after Xiao Wu and Dai Mu Bai, Oscar also departed by Lin Yu's hand. Lin Yu had read tales in his previous life where people captured or spared Oscar for various reasons, but he harbored no such sentiment. In a world where power ruled, true strength belonged to the strong. As the saying went, the strong survive, the weak perish.